Now we start in the United States, where US President Donald Trump has raised questions about South Korea just hours ahead of his meeting with its new President Lee Jae Myung at the White House. Earlier, Trump accused South Korea of being a money machine that takes advantage of American military protection. President Trump has issued a statement on Truth Social where he accused purge in South Korea. This statement, coming right before meeting South Korean President Lee, poses challenge for the trade negotiations and tariff talks that are expected to take place. We are discussing the ongoing and upcoming meeting between Donald Trump and South Korea. Donald Trump has voiced his concerns. We are now joined by Raymond Vickery, who is a former U.S. Assistant Secretary of Commerce, and he joins us live from the American capital of Washington, D.C. Raymond, thank you for joining us. As always, pleasure to talk to you. I just want to first get your insight of a Donald Trump Truth Social post slamming a country, posing a purge or a revolution is going on there, hours before meeting with the South Korean leader in the Oval Office. What are your thoughts, Raymond?
Well, thanks very much for having me, Thomas. This is of a pattern that unfortunately our president has shown, and that is that he wants to be the great decider in all things, that he is not only an authoritarian in regard to the United States, but throughout the world, and that he can order things as he sees them. Unfortunately, he does not see things in terms of relationships. What he sees it is in terms of a particular transaction. So it's very difficult to discern why he wants to interfere in domestic politics in South Korea, except that he does play to his MAGA base on the question of people receiving, nations receiving the security guarantees from the United States without paying enough money for it. This goes back to the whole transactional view of the world that President Trump holds. The transactional view in international affairs is particularly harmful because it's not any one action, such as the amount of money that you are going to receive as a part of the defense cooperation, but it's a question of a larger relationship. It's a question of building democracy, the values that the United States and even South Korea, Japan, other great democracies, India have adopted over the years as to how to secure those. So this is very antithetical to what needs to be done, to have a coalition of democracies concerned about human rights throughout the world, and is a step backward in security. Other nations, of course, are watching, whether they be Japan, whether they be India, and if he can take this approach in regard to South Korea, they start to wonder, well, what about our security cooperation with the U.S.?
Raymond, of course, and you see, as you said, you've seen patterns here where Donald Trump does criticize, and of course his administration and his allies do criticize foreign governments and the actions of them, Brazil being an example, Germany, France, another. What does Donald Trump get out of doing this? And do you think he has a real impact in world politics?
Well, he has an impact, but it's very harmful because it destroys the trust which has to underlie any of these relationships. If there isn't any trust, if you can't put any value in what one says or what one commits to, then you can't build coalitions for peace and prosperity. And you rightly point out, this is of a pattern with NATO. saying NATO countries weren't doing enough. Brazil doesn't like the way Bolsonaro is being treated. Interference in without any discernible strategy other than the aggrandizement of President Trump. Somehow he thinks that the more it just interferes wherever it is, that more likely he is to get a Nobel Peace Prize or be praised as a great man. He's having an impact. He may well be at times Man of the Year or something like that, but it's not because of a positive impact. It's negative. But he doesn't seem to see that. He comes from a background in television, reality TV shows where the more publicity you got for firing people or doing things which were seemingly outrageous, the better it was for your TV ratings. And that's the man's mindset. It's a very, very difficult and dangerous time for all of us in the democracies of the world, and the United States, quite frankly, needs the help of others to provide some form of stability here, which President Trump seems bent on destroying.
Raymond, obviously this meeting is going to come up later today. Trump, prior to it, has accused South Korea of being a money machine that takes advantage of American military protection. Could you describe to us a little bit the relationship between Seoul and Washington from your experience?
Well, ever since the North Koreans and then the Chinese tried to destroy South Korea by an invasion across the 48th parallel, the United States has worked to encourage democracy, encourage the institutionalization of those fundamentals which are necessary for cooperation among democratic nations. That progress has been uneven. It goes up and down, but that's true of any democracy. But what Trump is doing is turning this history of building democracy, values, relationships on its head. And what he's doing is saying, well, if you can't do what I say today and flatter me as the great man, then you're going to suffer the consequences for it. And those consequences first show up in regard to tariffs, but they also show up in regard to demands for greater amounts of money or material in regard to the security arrangements. This is an extremely dangerous and contrarian way of conducting foreign policy. It has not been the case under presidents really since the 19th century here in this country. So we're in a difficult situation, but this is just the latest example of a pattern in practice, which is that of President Donald J. Trump.
Raymond Vickery, pleasure to have you on the program as always. Thank you very much for taking the time to speak to us. For our next story, we head back over to